Welcome to the K Plus J Living Podcast,
where we talk about designing a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the K Plus J Living Podcast. And in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about...
Why we love to hate Hobby Lobby.
We love to hate Hobby Lobby?
Sorry, don't shut us off. Don't reach and for your button and shut us off. So here's why we have a love-hate with Hobby Lobby.
Love-hate,
Love-hate. That's
very
a better
good.
way to put it. Okay, so the thing that makes us the most sad. So I love Hobby Lobby. I'm there at least once a week, probably more like 3 times a week. We just got Ellie a gift card for her birthday. We are there all the time. Love it. However, the thing that makes me so sad is when we'll be there, we're standing in line, and we look ahead to the person in front of us, and they have this mountain of stuff in their cart, and everything, matches perfectly. It's all from the same section in there, and she's going to go home, and she's just going to put it all on her wall, and it's going to be lovely, but so impersonal, and it just, makes me so sad.
Yeah, because the cart, in the next aisle, is also... vomiting over the same pile of stuff because it's all the same.
It makes me sad. And so, let's see. Okay, my house is beach themed, so I shop in this aisle, and I can only buy things from this aisle. And you put everything in your cart that's beach themed or whatever. And of course, thanks to Chip and Joanna, which we also love them. But the whole farmhouse thing is over the top everywhere. Which
everyone's gathering.
If you've been at our house. Everyone's gathering. The word gather is not allowed in our house.
I told Jennifer that I want to have a picture with a stick of butter that says slather, but in the font.
The fancy gather
the
font.
The fancy font of gather.
No.
So, I'm kidding.
And so if you've been to our house, you might even be kind of rolling your eyes because we do actually have a lot of quirky animal art, I guess you could say. And it tends towards farm animals. I collect sheep. I always have. But that's the key there. I always have.
At the top of our stairway coming up is actually from Hobby Lobby.
It is, and it's a big cow.
So we're not against Hobby Lobby. We love the values of Hobby. There's lots of things we love about Hobby Lobby.
But before the whole farmhouse thing, took over, we were already hanging these things. And it's because, I grew up on a farm. When I was little, I lived on a farm. Ellie loves cows. She has her favorite stuffed animal cow. And
Sally Bubblegum.
Yeah.
Her name is Sally Bubblegum.
And I collect sheep. I always have. I love them from a trip that I took to England when I was 17.
Your family in England.
Yeah. So, for us, these things fit.
So what's the answer to us loving to hate Hobby Lobby? What do we think the answer is?
Because it's not personal. It's not telling your story. You're letting Hobby Lobby tell a story, and you're I like that story. I'm going to hang that story on my wall. And it all matches so perfectly. And so I think our biggest thing would be decorate slowly. Don't be afraid to have blank spaces on your wall. Take time to find the pieces that...
And you can buy stuff from Hobby Lobby.
Absolutely.
What we're saying is that you can buy stuff from Hobby Lobby if it is something that means something, that tells part of your story. So what are the ways that we decorate around story, and even the ways we work with clients? If you look on our website about talking about story, what do we mean by that?
So one thing that we've always said from day one, we've been married coming up on 22 years, and I've always wanted it to be when people come over that they feel like they know us right away. Oh my gosh, this is who you are. And so, and we decorated slowly over the years. We didn't just go out and hang a bunch of stuff on the wall. And I know that makes people nervous to have blank spaces on their walls.
Yeah.
But, we collect pieces when we go on vacation. We pick things up here and we build things.
And rocks. And if you looked at one of our blog posts, we talked about our treasure jars.
And it's stuff that, our kids bring to us all the time. Even now as teenagers, they're bringing us pieces of rocks and twigs.
Yeah, just last summer.
Well, no, just the other day, Ellie brought me something.
Well,
that she found.
But I'm thinking of when Ellie was out back and...
Oh, yeah, she found glasses out in the ravine behind our house.
A pair of glasses, not glass. But,
yeah,
so we put them in the treasure jar because Ellie found it.
And she brought them and she wanted them in the treasure jar.
Yeah.
So, but it just tells your story, and it's pieces that as you live your life together, you pick up, and they have special meaning to you, or they made you laugh, they made you smile, or it was a color that you absolutely loved. It wasn't like, well, this is what goes, this is what's in the magazine, so I guess this is what we hang with this, and I'm doing the farm decor, so I better go buy a pig with a wreath on its head because that's what's in style right now. So
yeah, and don't be afraid to put things in your home. Like we have things in our home that maybe seems, like what Jennifer said, maybe seems quirky to other people, but to us, when we look at it, it has a story behind it, and we love the fact that we can go up and touch, I would say, just about everything that isn't like a fixed item, like a couch or anything like that. But I think even the colors on our, it tells our story of
it's colors that we love. It's
who
colors
we are,
that we always decorate.
But even you
our
can
dog got us our couch. We'll save that story for another day.
Yeah.
But even our couches have a story.
Oh yeah, but it makes me angry.
Worst puppy ever.
Keep listening, you'll hear that story. But you can walk up and touch different things and say, what is the story? What does the story tell? And we can unpack that story. It's just neat. And to have your house tell a story doesn't have to cost a lot of money, does it?
No, absolutely not. We got married very, very young. We had no money. I don't even really feel like we had curtains for a long time. Like it was just really bare. But we've always been thrifty, and people would give us furniture, and we would either paint it or we would get a couch cover for it, or
Yeah.
But the other day I was looking through some pictures, and even when our kids were really little, and they're at the age where they're like getting into everything and breaking everything, I look back and I'm like, oh, it was still pretty. Like we had pretty things on the wall and pretty colors, and even though it was all very, very kid-friendly decor, it still looked nice.
Yeah.
So
that is for sure. We titled this episode "Why We Love to Hate Hobby Lobby," and like we said, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, and this is only episode 2, but we split our podcast kind of into 3 sections, and it's home, health, and happiness. Our little cliche phrase, I don't think it's cliche, but it's kind of us, is designing a meaningful home.
tagline.
Tagline, that's a better way
Yeah,
than cliche. Not cliche. No. But it's designing a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness. And really on each episode, sometimes we're going to unpack an idea around designing a meaningful home. And sometimes we're going to unpack an idea around better health. And sometimes we're going to unpack an idea about happiness in more, and spend more of the time on the podcast doing that. And so in this week, we actually want to talk about health a lot more, and kind of talk about our middle daughter's journey. Ellie, she just turned 15, and it's our journey kind of towards healthier eating and healthier living, and really all of that kind of came out of having a daughter with immune deficiency, and that whole journey. And I think my wife does a great job at sharing that. So
yeah, so like you said, Ellie just turned 15, and our story is kind of when she was born, I could tell right away that something was wrong with her skin. She was a couple of weeks early. She was gigantic. She was 9 pounds 1 ounce.
For the record, she says Ellie was gigantic. Every child we had,
all gigantic,
could have been sumo wrestlers. So,
but Ellie was 2 weeks early, and she was 9'1".
9'1". Rachel was 9'10".
Yeah,
Carter was
10.5.
10.5 in C-section.
He doesn't play football. He should have.
He was a beast. So
he missed his opportunity.
Yeah. So anyway.
So she, but even though she was early, her skin was real flaky. Normally, like you'd see in a newborn that was maybe overdue and like cooked a little too long. But her skin was just very flaky. And I was like, it's just not right, and we'd had a little bit of that with Rachel. And so we were just kind of watching
eczema.
her. Yeah, eczema, but a little bit like on the back of her arms and that kind of thing. And so, but nothing, nothing out of the ordinary. And so with Ellie, by the time she was 4 months old, she was itching her face all the time, and she was, well, before that, she was doing that. I remember she just had, she would scratch until she bled. And so we had a really hard time with her keeping her little baby hands, out of her
and
face.
Baby nails are so sharp.
I know. And,
it
even
was...
though we kept them, she would just scratch and scratch and scratch. And she'd have big scratch marks across her forehead and her cheeks and everything. And she wasn't a good sleeper. And so she would sleep. She was a great sleeper during the day, but a terrible sleeper at night because she was just so uncomfortable. And then she'd be so exhausted during the day from not sleeping at night that she would nap a lot. Like I feel like we hardly saw her as a baby. So anyway, so from there it just kind of progressed to she just got worse, and we went to different doctors, and when she was 7, she was hospitalized, and just because she had so many open sores on her body that she was very susceptible to infection and that sort of thing, and so she was quarantined, and this was just kind of our life with her. Very,
and this season of her life, we ate horrible.
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't say we ate horrible. We ate the typical American diet. We ate.
Yeah, well, we would call it horrible
now.
We would call it horrible now, and that's no judgment, towards anybody else.
Know better, do better. And at the time,
know better, do better. Yeah,
we just didn't know any better, and so, I grew up in a family. My mom always did home cooked meals and things like that, but I hate to cook, and so all of our meals were very, very processed meals that we were eating. But anyway, so we would go to doctors, and they would, say, "Oh, you need to do." This, and then we'd come back and they'd say, well, you clearly didn't do what we said to do. You weren't supposed to bathe her for a month, or you were supposed to bathe her 3 times a day. I mean, it was always something different, and it was just so difficult. And so anyways, they eventually prescribed her steroids, and that was really the best that we could do. I mean, it broke my heart.
Has side effects.
Yeah, and it broke my heart to put her on that, but honestly, she was like a different kid, and it really did help us. But anyway, when she turned 10, I just had enough. And
at this time, we had traveled
to Chicago, we'd been to Peoria, we'd been to Iowa City.
Tried all kinds of things. And
every time we'd be at the store, someone would say, oh, have you tried this?
We tried this lotion. And we're like, we know every single lotion that's out there. We had tried everything. We felt like we had tried everything, been everywhere, done everything. And it was really at this place where
I just kind of snapped. She turned 10 and I just snapped because all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, we've been doing this for a decade. This can't be her life forever. And then kind of on a parallel course, I guess you could say, I, at the same time, with each child had gained weight and could not lose the weight. And so I had gone to the doctor, and I had lost it fairly easily between the girls. But then after I had Ellie and then on, I just had a very, very difficult time. And I'd also had some major, major health stuff, that went on with me. And so along the way, I had gone to doctors, and they would say things like, well, you look pretty good, and, you should just not eat off of your kids' plates, or you just need to, which is disgusting. You couldn't even pay me to eat off of my kids' plates. That's so gross. But that was that was the kind of advice that I was getting. And so it was just so difficult to me. I couldn't understand why I had been able to lose weight in the past, and now I couldn't. So we were at a picnic when Ellie, right after her birthday, we were at a graduation picnic for someone. And at the other end of our table, I heard someone talking about celiac. And my ears kind of perked up because she was describing the symptoms that her husband had. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is 100% Ellie. I can't even believe this. Like, why have they never talked about this to us before? Never one time did any doctor that we had gone to, and we had gone everywhere, never had they talked about food allergies or what are you eating and what, none of that stuff.
And this is one of the key things for us that was crucial, is that when you're on these health journeys, it's great to explore multiple avenues. There's experts in the homeopathic field. There's experts in conventional medicine. And for us, exploring multiple streams of knowledge helped us start to put the pieces together.
Yeah, and so, like I said, this person's down at the other end of the table, and I was like, oh my gosh, please tell me, what does this mean? What is celiac, And so she started we just had a really interesting conversation, and I immediately went, and I went home and just Googled like crazy all about celiac and learning about that. And so before we even had her tested for that, I said, Ellie, we're going gluten-free. And of course, she's 10 and that's devastating. It's devastating to anyone. But I said, I'm never going to ask you.
We didn't know what gluten-free meant. It was like, does that mean I don't get to wear shoes anymore? We didn't know what gluten-free meant.
It was a brand new term to us. Now you hear it everywhere. But when she's 15 now, so when she was 10, 5 years ago, this was just barely starting to be something that you could find or hear about. And so I said, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I won't do with you. So if you're going to give up gluten, I'm going to give it up with you. And the first place that we went was Fazoli's, which was like, we ate there 3-4 times a week. We lived at Fazoli's at the time, and we loved their breadsticks. And gluten-olies.
It is gluten.
And so we said, okay, Ellie, we're going to go here, and I'm going to show you that we can go to Fazoli's together, and we're not going to eat their breadsticks, and we're not going to eat pasta, and we're going to find other things. Like that, we're going to make this work. And so she was really sad, but we ate a really delicious salad, which, to be honest, now I wouldn't even eat it because it's so full of sugar. But at the time, we ate it.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And so so we ate that. And the crazy thing is, in 3 days, I lost 10 pounds. And I was like, what is this? Why is this happening? This is the craziest thing. Like, how have I not been able to lose weight? And all of a sudden, in 3 days, I have to go buy new pants. I went down a whole size. And really, I don't even think it was 3 full days. Like, it was like literally overnight. It was the craziest thing. And so immediately I went and I read the book, Wheat Belly, and started learning all about wheat and that sort of thing. And so we did find out she is not celiac, and she, none of that ended up being her case.
She's not gluten intolerant.
Well, it's not great for her.
What we discovered is that gluten...
It is a trigger for her.
And in small doses, it's okay for people, but it's these...
But we... Yeah, in small doses. And so... For her, it is one of her triggers, but that was just kind of the start of it. And so
what is gluten? For people that maybe are hearing it for the first time,
they're going to have to Google it because I can't give the scientific answer.
Yeah.
But it's in bread, pastas, all the
it's
cakes.
What gives it elasticity.
Yeah, it's the good stuff. But so anyway, and there's Ellie now.
Close. She's knocking stuff over right now.
She's coming in. She heard her name.
What are you breaking, Ellie?
So anyway, but through that is when we also, as a family, gave up sugar. We did the JJ Virgin diet, which is similar now to what you would hear the Whole30, which I don't even know if that's 5 years old or if we would have found that then. Yeah. That's a little newer, but at the time. It was
7 days to, what was that thing called? The JJ Virgin, it was interesting.
The Virgin diet, if you look it up.
Every one of these books
propelled us a little further.
It was like a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
It wasn't the whole puzzle.
Yeah, and so past 5 years, it's just been a journey of trying to figure out for her, and then it ended up being my own weight loss journey and figuring out the foods that I eat are very important. It's not just about counting calories; it's what I'm actually eating that's making the biggest difference. And so for us, that's kind of where we started out just giving up gluten, and now I would say we're primarily gluten-free at home, not because any of us have legit, if you tested us, we have allergies. We feel way, way better not eating it. So we don't make it a normal part of our meal. Now, she just had a birthday this week. We thoroughly enjoyed her birthday cake from our favorite bakery. So
it was full of gluten, and it was phenomenal.
And also the best frosting ever with very sugary. So, we still have that stuff, but we feel so much better when we eat that way.
That's not the norm. Yeah, it's not the norm of the lifestyle.
It was a birthday treat. But Ellie is at the age now, if you have a child in that same situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I could never get them to give up sugar. We have not been able to get our kids to fully give up sugar. When they leave the house, they have choices put in front of them and they choose to have those things. However, Ellie is learning as she gets older that those things affect her more than she wishes they did. And so she's starting to realize that I can control my eczema. I can control these things that happen to me if I so choose. And that's really been the most important thing, is that we can give her the knowledge that you have it all when you're ready to do it.
The older she gets, just like our oldest daughter, the older our kids get, since they've been on this journey with us, thankfully, the more they're choosing to be healthier
on their own.
and
They're choosing
their
those
own,
things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought us to this place of healthy eating. And that's just, I mean, we'll touch more on it in future episodes, but what do we eat? We eat, like we said in the last episode, Carter complains, all we eat is veggies and protein. But we do really stick to a lot of just meats and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, tons of different ways. Now you heard the dog.
Dog shaking.
Everyone's joining us.
Everyone's joining us
It's a
now.
party in the kitchen. But there's tons of recipes that you can eat that way. It's never boring. We love Trim Healthy Mama recipes, a lot of Whole30 recipes.
And we'll put some of this in our show notes too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of delicious eating, and you'd be surprised at, little by little, you can transition your family to healthy eating.
Yes, I'm just typing a reminder to put things in show notes. But, as we're talking about, we started with why we, love to hate Hobby Lobby, but also our journey with health. These are the kind of things we're going to talk about and share the different books we've read, kind of the recipes we love to eat. And, the difference with Jennifer and I will be one of the things that I want to talk about. I kind of want to save for another podcast. I'd mentioned the first episode on how she's my health mentor.
Casey's the guy that you love to hate because he has amazing metabolism.
Yeah, but it's kind of an Achilles heel, though, because, so my metabolism is super high. I can eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, and I don't gain weight. But, so here's the kicker with that, is that doesn't mean that I'm healthy. So that's
doesn't
the big thing.
mean that you sleep good.
It doesn't mean you sleep good.
Yeah.
So there's things that, your water intake, how much vegetables, protein, things you eat, and I'm the one that very easily I fall off the wagon. We'll talk about this more in.
Would you like to share the snack that you just ate in front of me?
Oh yeah, I finished off a small bag of Reese's Pieces right before we started recording this, which is one of my wife's favorite, and she did not eat any.
I didn't have any.
And I finished those off. So,
but I watched you eat every one of them.
Every one of them. So, and that's the thing. I honestly struggle with sugar. I don't eat a ton of it because of our home, but I do struggle with that. And it's one of those things that as I age, as I get older, I know there's things about sugar that we'll talk about more, but it definitely causes inflammation. There's lots of pieces of the puzzle when it comes to getting sugar out of your diet or lessening the amount of intake.
Yeah, and speaking of sugar, it ended up being way more sugar for Ellie than anything else.
Anything else?
Yeah, because it is such it's so inflammatory, and it, yeast and all that.
And so what we're saying is, does that mean you should never eat sugar? That's not at all what we're saying. But it's moderation, and what does moderation mean
for you?
For you, it's different for everybody,
and everybody has different goals.
And everybody has different goals, exactly. So with that, we talk about home, we talk about health, and we talk about happiness. And here's one of the biggest things. We all have stuff in our life, whether it's the health of our kids or maybe sickness that maybe we have or struggles with job or whatever. And here's one thing I want to talk about when it comes to happiness. When we talk about designing a home you love, better health, and more happiness, one of the things that we really want to touch on, and one of the things that I pray about every single day is just being thankful for the breath in my lungs and having another day of life. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, when you keep things simple and you say, this is your only life, this is all we get, that our philosophy for our family, for Jennifer and I, is really that life is a journey, and again, it sounds cliche, but that life is a journey, it's not a destination. And for me, I'll talk about this in another podcast, but for me, it was so much of my life, and I'm 41 right now, was about getting to the destination, conquering the next thing. And one thing that God has really helped me grow in is that enjoying this journey. And this K+J Living Company is part of that journey, and we love it. And Jennifer and I are enjoying it. And So each week,
Oh, we forgot to get a question.
we did.
Let's make one up. Pretend.
Okay.
Because we do get a lot of questions.
Yes. So.
It's a good question. So we can go back to the health thing really quick. One thing that we do get asked a lot is, my kids would die if we took all of the sugar out of the house. And I will be very honest with you. The first week that we did the JJ Virgin diet, which is, what did we eat? Like beans and vegetables.
I don't know.
You can't have fruit.
It was like major withdrawal.
The kids were literally climbing the walls. And about 3 hours in, I remember like crying and being like, forget it. We can't do this. This is awful. And then we decided to push through. But that was so difficult. So I'm not going to lie. Sugar is really, really hard.
These things aren't easy.
No, but it was so worth it. And
it's the short-term pain for long-term gain.
And once you get over that initial...
Ellie is sitting across from us, and she's rolling her eyes as we talk about
It's so true, though. And so now, we don't buy anything. If it comes in the house, like Reese's Pieces, it's because... It's not because I brought it.
It's usually because I bought it when
at a gas station.
Usually, I'm working and doing construction, and I want sugar. That's all. That's exactly what it is. So.
Our kids get it at school. We don't. Our last thing to go down was sugary cereals, and I had already backed it down to like I would allow a certain grams per serving or whatever, and finally
below 7 grams of sugar.
And finally in the last month, or it's just been in the last month where I said enough's enough. I'm the mom. I'm not having it in my house anymore.
So it's really starting the day. What we're trying to do.
But that's 5 years in.
Yeah, 5 years in. So what we're really trying to do is have our kids start their day with protein, with things
eggs.
that are feeding their brain rather than really fuel them to crash in a matter of a couple hours.
Yeah, the last thing that kids need to go to school on is sugar, where they're going to have this crazy high and then they're going to crash. I mean, they can't possibly be expected to learn like that. So we do.
And feel free. So with that question, we kind of threw out a lot of information. Just I have my boxer dog. If you hear that
the
whining and groaning here, she wants me to pick her up, but we're recording. So we threw out a lot of information to you on things that have become kind of second nature to us, but maybe have stirred up a lot of questions in your own mind. And we would love to hear about those questions. We're not saying we have all the answers, but we can help to share with you things that have worked for us.
Right. And where we've kind of gone on our journey and what books have been really helpful to us. And obviously, I mean, we're still on this journey. It's never ending. We just gave up the cereals. And
it goes in like hills and valleys, and it's not constant. It's not a perfect thing. But if you want to send us a question, you can email us at, here's our email address, contact@kjliving.company, or you can also leave us a voicemail at 309-481-3131. We would love to hear from you. And also, if you're enjoying this podcast, we would love for you to hop onto iTunes and rate this, because what it does is when you rate it not only, yes, of course it helps us, but it also increases the amount of visibility so that more people can get maybe some added value to their life when it comes to their home, their health.
We can stop other people from shopping only at Hobby Lobby.
Yes. So, hey, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the K+J Living Podcast.
Bye.